Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 123. We're going to do what we do every week on Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and we're going to have a live show. And this is not a regular Shot Science video. This is a kind of a time where we can help you guys and answer your questions and maybe give you a little bit of insight to make your game a little bit better. So what we do is we like to start it off by having a topic that we talk about. And while we talk about that topic, you guys are going to send us your questions. So anything basketball related, it could be on shooting, dribbling, passing, playing defense, talking to your coach, how to develop your athleticism, whatever. Send those questions to us while we're talking about this topic. And we will do our best to answer those questions after we finish the topic. You can catch us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. That's the best place to reach us. You can hit us up on Google+, YouTube, here on the stream on this video, or any of our other social media sites. Today's topic is going to be how to steal the ball without fouling. And we're going to talk about that. And while we are talking about that, you guys send us your questions, okay? So let's just jump into that one. So what are some thoughts on that? Like people are always asking, how do I steal the ball? How do I pick the guy?
Well, you know, one of the things that comes to my mind immediately on this is that when you're making an obvious attempt to steal a basketball, you're probably putting yourself in a real jeopardy, because the thing that happens is that they're trying to protect the basketball, and sometimes you get caught reaching in and call for a foul. And the thing that's really more important than that is, I think something that's really key is anticipation of where the pass may be going, and then to step in front of it. Anticipation, obviously, for all of you guys, you probably know what it is just looking ahead at what may happen and trying to take advantage of that anticipation.
Let's start off by talking about what most people think stealing the ball is all about. Most people think that it's all about playing the guy straight up and trying to pick the ball and pop it out, and you know, he's the guy's already got the ball in his hands, and he's trying to make a move, and you're reaching in and popping it out.
Yeah, trying to reach in.
Most people think that that's like the key to stealing the ball is somewhere in there.
Well, the thing that's kind of interesting is how people think that stealing is such an important part of the basketball game. You know, it is kind of an important part, but it's one that you can get yourself in trouble on really quick.
Yeah, because you're taking a risk.
Yeah, you're taking a risk when you're reaching out, especially if you're reaching over the top and you hit them on the hand trying to take the ball away from them. That really, for my money, is not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what we want to talk about today, is the fact that, you know, there's ways to pick the ball off, and typically people think the uninitiated or the less experienced players think that it's when you're playing the guy straight up and you're trying to pop the ball out, and you're reaching all over the place and you're just giving them a hard time. But in reality, the guys that are always stealing the ball and they have that stat kind of padded in their stat list are the guys that anticipate passing and step into the passing lane. And you know, the problem with reaching in and trying to pop the ball out and all that is that you will pick up fouls and you will be out of the game very quickly, because it's taking a greater risk than it is if you're jumping the passing lanes.
Well, that's true. And, you know, everybody's is tempted to reach in from time to time.
And you may get some of those.
And you may, but you also may get the negative side of it, which is a call or two against you. And one of the things that we always teach our guys is if you're going to reach in, you never go over the top where you're reaching down and trying to knock the ball away. Instead, what you're doing is you're coming from underneath and trying to flip that ball up. And, you know, and kind of I think this is borne out by, you know, I don't know who it's borne out by, but you very seldom ever get called for a situation where you might have a little contact when you're reaching from underneath. You're more likely to get into the basketball first as getting on the hand first. And so,
yeah, well, I mean, I think that's mostly because when referees are looking at the play, if it looks like a foul, they're going to call it, even if it may not be. And so when you're coming over the top and you're coming down onto some guy's arm or coming down on top of the ball, you might catch his hand or something like that. It might look like a foul more than if you're coming up. It just looks less aggressive.
Well, that probably is true. But the other thing you got to think about is that the hand is over the top of the basketball when you're dribbling it. And when you come from underneath, you know, you're not probably going to get the hand first, or maybe not get it at all. But you get when you're digging from the underneath side.
Yeah. And so I think that's, if you're playing person straight up, that's kind of an approach if you're trying to get the ball, pop it out and all that. Also, if you use our defensive techniques that we talk about in the videos on Defense 101, Chase, he's talking about kind of this defensive positioning, using your hands in different ways. And we have a tip hand and a rip hand. And, that rip hand is down there, and it's right where that guy is going to be crossing the ball over. And if you can get your hand in there and catch the ball in that kind of transition between his hands, then you're going to be in better shape to get a steal as well. You don't want to be up on that guy and just reaching in and slapping and doing all that, because those type of players are just out of control.
Well,
a lot of defense is putting yourself in control and not kind of being the flailing guy that gets fouls called, because you will be out of there so quickly. And so, that's, if you're playing a guy straight up and you're trying to get that kind of steal, that's fine.
Right.
But the reality is that you will not get very many doing that, especially if you're playing good players. And the higher the level of play is, the less likely you are to get those picks. And, there will always be the guy that kind of will get in there and he'll pop it out every once in a while on a guy. Another one is if you catch a guy who's turned his head and you come off of your defensive guy and steal the ball from behind or something like that. Yeah. That's another situation where you might pop the ball out and get a steal. But the biggest way, or probably the best way for you to be a person that kind of is known for this, or gets that stat kind of working for you, is if you learn to anticipate passes and learn to jump passing lanes and get out there in between the two guys that are trying to pass the ball to each other, because it limits the amount of contact you're going to come into with another player.
Sure. One of the things that's really good about that anticipation too is to fake where you're going to step into the passing lane and then step back. Oftentimes what happens is that you step into the passing lane and they're looking to maybe pass the ball behind you, back door, and they throw the ball to you. The other thing that's really important is that if you fake that fake like you're going to step in, they'll hold up and then you step back and they'll go ahead and throw it, and then you can step into that lane and take the pass. But, probably the whole idea of steals is probably,
it's overemphasized when it comes down to defense.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that's really important is keeping that guy in front of you who has the basketball. And that's really way more important than stealing the ball.
Yeah. And, we talk about it every week on both the defensive and offensive end, is that you need to put yourself in control. You don't allow the other player that you're playing against to be the one in control, because you don't want to have to react to that guy. You want them reacting to you. Right. And the same is true on defense. So when you're playing a guy straight up and he's got the ball, whatever, you're beating him to the spot. You're making it difficult on him to pass the ball. Right. You're not letting him put the ball on the floor. And if he does put the ball on the floor and picks it up, you're all over him again. Right. And you're just making him have to react to you. And then when it comes down to kind of this thing where you're playing the passing lanes, the same thing is true, where you can be in control. You can manipulate the guy that has the ball away from your player, and you can get him to do things that he doesn't want to do necessarily, where he's thinking that you're doing one thing. Maybe you're trying to jump the passing lane here, and it looks like you've kind of committed to that. But then as he tries to pass it back door, you pick it off or whatever. So putting yourself in control in those situations is extremely important. And it's how you will be a better player on both ends of the floor. Yeah. Reacting to the other team is the worst way to be, because you'll always be a step behind.
Yes, that's true. And you can anticipate what everybody's going to do on the offensive end. And so there's a lot of it that is really in the realm of anticipation. You really want to play solid, stay in front of your guy and react to him. You have to do that, but you also need to be able to anticipate what it is that he may do or another person may do, trying to get him the basketball.
Yeah. So, I think that when it comes down to it, it's all about kind of shifting your mentality when it comes to defense. Yeah. And, a lot of guys, they want to know what's the key to stealing the ball. Yeah. And the key to stealing the ball is really to have that approach where it's mostly about manipulating the passes and jumping the passing lane and anticipating the passes. And the other thing too is that typically when you pick those passes off, you will have a wide open fast break opportunity. because
true.
you will be ahead of everybody on that.
Yeah, and that's where most of the steals come from when you watch higher level basketball. They don't come from a player taking a ball away from another player off the dribble or something like that. They come from a pass being made to another player and somebody else stepping across the passing lane and taking it away from them, or deflecting that so that one of their teammates can take the ball. So,
and if you think about it, most guys that are playing basketball, they're working a ton on their ball handling skills.
yep,
And, for you to step in there and try to take the ball away, that's something that they're working on
yep,
constantly
yep,
all the time. But, that's kind of like close combat
yeah,
too.
yeah, it
So
is.
you get in there close with a guy or girl, and you're trying to pick the ball off from them. That is taking a major risk.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to jump the passing lane, it's less risky.
Well, it is. Probably the worst thing that could happen to you there is you get beat by a backdoor cut and backdoor pass. And the other thing that coaches often, well, not often, but they usually will do is they school their offside or help side defenders to react in that case. If they see that a backdoor cut is being made, then they want to rotate right to the basketball right now to take and stop it. And that kind of helps the other team as well. But in the reality, all those steals that you see in a basketball game, most all of them come from intercepting passes or deflecting passes so that somebody else can pick it up and go with it.
Yeah.
Not taking it away from the dribbler, because that doesn't happen that often, probably on any level.
Yeah. And I mean, you probably won't see that in the highlights so much because, the close combat type of stuff is what that shows up in highlights.
Yeah,
but that doesn't show you the other 3 times where you either got beat or you fouled the guy.
Yeah.
So, this is really, we want to emphasize that this is really an approach that you guys should think about when you're trying to play defense.
Right.
Look to the passing lanes, get in there and seal the ball kind of away from your defender so that doesn't have a chance to create the foul.
Right.
Okay. So I think that'll do it for our topic today, you guys. So hopefully you've been sending us in your questions. If you want to, send your questions here into the comments section on the YouTube video, or you can send them to us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science, probably the best place to get us. We will go to as many questions as we possibly can, and we need your questions, so send them our way. Anything basketball related, shooting, dribbling, passing, talking to your coach, athleticism, whatever it is, send them over to us, and we will shout you out if we ask your question. And it would be awesome if you also tell your friends and family to check us out on our weekly show. And okay, let's just get into this stuff.
All right.
Okay, this first question is from Josh Velarde in the comments. He says, how do I take away a hitch from my shot?
Well,
well, he's done half of the battle, which is just identifying
it as the biggest problem, or the biggest help to
first
solution.
step. Yeah.
One of the things that we like to recommend to everybody is we like to recommend our form shooting drill. And in the form shooting drill, that is one where you are working on all of the elements that are important for that shot. And if the hitch is a part of that, then during the form shooting drill, you want to concentrate on not having that hitch. And
do you want to break everything down?
Break it all down.
Slow it all down.
Exactly. And make sure that when it comes to that hitch, that you don't allow the hitch to happen. I had a young man this morning and we were doing all of that kind of thing. And he did have that little hitch. And we talked about it, and he was trying to get rid of it. But you don't just take and flip a switch and have it be gone, because it has become probably a part of muscle memory. And so you then have to break that muscle memory down. We like to use that our form shooting drill to do that, where you just really focus on not having that hitch. That really screws your shot up.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing with any of these skill development things. You got to break it way down, slow it down, and work on each individual element of whatever you're working on. So if it's your shot, you break it completely down to, okay, here's where my feet are going to be. Here's my where my shot kind of pocket's going to be. I'm going to get the ball here. I'm doing it very slowly. I'm going through and I'm making sure that I have proper technique the entire way. And maybe you're working from 2 feet away from the basket.
Right.
And it's all just getting that form down. And using the form shooting drill, you master from that close spot at 2 feet away, and you've eliminated your hitch in that. And then once you've done that and you're being effective and making the shot, take a step back, work on it from that area. And you'll just progressively work your way back. And by the time you get to the deeper range, the 3-point range, let's say, then your shot will have eliminated the hitch. You will have built up the muscle memory, and your mechanics will not have broken down as you move back, because it's harder to shoot from further away, but you want your shot to stay the same.
Yeah.
And you have to do the work to get there.
Well, one of the things that we should also kind of bring in here is why is the hitch there? Well, we don't intend to do that, but the hitch usually is something that you develop because you're trying to generate more power, excuse me, and you're trying to generate the power with your arms and shoulders. That's not where the power really comes from, and you have to really kind of understand that. We've got video on, the power base and whatnot. And so what happens is that we want that more power, and so then we tend to hitch the ball back and try to get more power that way. What happens is the configuration of our arm here changes as well. We like to talk about delivering the ball from the L position, and that helps us to get the arc. And also, when we finish, we want that elbow to be higher than our arm. When you start to hitch and you bring it back here, that changes to a V. When the arm angle there changes to a V, the ball will always be flat, always.
Yeah, because you're essentially just catapulting and using this as
that's the hinge point right there.
Point, yeah.
Yeah, and we want the shoulder to be the hinge point and the major hinge point, and not the elbow.
And you want the elbow to finish above your shooting eye. So when you're here, you don't want to finish here. You want to finish up here, because like my elbow's above my eye. And so that's going to give you the proper amount or the proper trajectory of the ball. And it's going to have a nice arc.
Well, the thing that is important to remember there is that this is something you probably have developed trying to get more power out of your arms.
Well,
the thing that's important to remember is the power that you generate by your shoulder girdle and arms and whatnot amounts to about 20% of the total power that you use when you shoot. The other 80% of it is coming from our core muscle group and our lower body, where the largest muscles in the body are. These are our guidance system for the most part.
Well, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this is like most things in sports where you're trying to deliver a ball or something like that, or swing a bat. Most of the power is coming from your lower body, where it's like your legs, your core, your hips, your butt, all that stuff. And you could look at baseball or football. When you're throwing the ball or swinging a bat, in both of those, most of the power is coming from like the hips and things like that. Basketball is similar. A lot of that is coming from the lower body, and you're using your upper body as kind of like the fine focus. It's where you're going to have kind of your finesse part of the shot. And that's how you get your accuracy. If you're trying to muscle with your upper body, which is the delivery system, then you're going to be adding a lot of tension, a lot of energy to the ball.
And a lot of misdirection as well.
And so you have to think of your upper body more as kind of like the target finder, the refined, very delicate motion of the shot, whereas your lower body is going to be kind of like your blast off point. And if you look at people like, let's say, Stephen Curry, who we think is probably the most efficient shooter that we've seen like in the NBA, and that other people would know. And the thing that makes his shot so great is the efficiency itself. There is no hitching. Everything from him going off the floor, from his feet to his follow through, is one solid motion, one fluid motion. And he's generating most of his power from his legs. And you can see just how refined and finessed his release is. He is not using any muscling to get the ball from using his upper body to get the ball there.
It's all from his midsection down.
Yeah. So, when you guys are trying to build your shot, and that's one of the things, a lot of people develop these hitches because they haven't really thought about the fundamentals, thought about the best way to shoot. It's like maybe they saw it on TV or their coach told them to do this and that. But if you have an approach where you are being kind of thoughtful about how you use your shooting now, that's really the way to approach it, and that will eliminate those little kind of hitches and stuff like that, because maybe you didn't have that approach when you first started, but now you can. But it's always great to start with this kind of thoughtfulness before you even get into things, because then you eliminate all this worry about this stuff later on. And the other thing too is that hitches and sticking points in your shot will limit your power as you have each hitch,
and your accuracy. That's a key point.
So we want to work on being fluid and have the connectivity between your entire body. Okay, That was a long rant on shooting, but that's what we do. Let's see.
Rant on.
Yeah, this one is from Johnny Damon, who says, "Hey, coach, what is the best way to blow by a defender that is playing up on you?" Number one, just go.
Yeah. We have this little saying that we teach every one of our students, and that saying is this: they crowd, I go. And what that means is if they get up into your space, and everybody has got a certain space around their body that they don't like people to be in. And when the defense gets up and crowds you and you've got your dribble left, it's time for you to just blow by them and get to the basket. And typically what happens is that they're so close, they have no time to react, and there's usually body contact. And when there's body contact, it usually is on them, because in order for them to take a charge on you, they have to get themselves in your path and be stationary before you get there. And if they're really close in, they have no time to do that.
Yeah.
And so the final word on it is this, is that they crowd, I go. And it doesn't make any difference if you go right or left, but you're going to attack them and try to get to the basket.
Yeah, so it comes back to what we were talking about earlier when we were telling you guys that you need to be in control, no matter if you're on offense or defense. If you are in control and that guy is up on you, see, the thing is, he's trying to be the one in control by doing that. He's trying to make you react to what he's doing. But what you can do is read what he's doing,
right,
and take control yourself. And what you do is, as soon as you see he's up on you, you know that if you take a step, he has to react to that.
Right.
So you need to be the one that is taking that quick first step, going by him, not trying to avoid him, going hip to hip off that guy, sealing him, and then he's playing catch up the rest of the time.
Yeah, he'll be chasing you the whole time, but more than likely he's going to foul you anyway.
But so remember, if he's up on you, you go and you push that first dribble out, push that first step out, and you should be in good shape.
Yeah, if they're playing that close, they have no time to react, and then you're by them, and now it's a chase after that.
The two worst things that you can do in that situation would be to shoot the ball, because he's up on you and it's going to be a contested shot, and that would be a bad shot. And number two would be to panic.
Right.
Because as soon as you start panicking, he's done his job and you're going to just swallow it. Yeah. And he's either going to pick up the ball on a steal, or you're going to kick it out of bounds, or you're going to throw it to your teammate and it's going to get picked off because you're not going to make a good decision. Yeah. So relax, see what he's doing, and go by him.
Attack him.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. This one is from Venomous08, who says, not a direct question about basketball skills, but what shoes do you use or recommend? I recently bought the Nike Hyperdunk 2015 and found that those give me horrible blisters on my feet. Okay. This is maybe not the answer that everybody wants to hear on this one, but the real answer to this is that you should find shoes that feel the best to you, because it doesn't matter how much you pay for them. It doesn't matter whose name is behind it.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what brand it is. If they feel good and they feel like they're supporting you, or you've read reviews that they're great shoes and they feel good on your feet, then that's the shoe you should go with. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a $30 shoe or if it's a $300 shoe. You got to get the one that feels best for you and also is economical for you. Obviously, you're not going to spend $300 and get those shoes and then have to get another $300 pair like 3 months later. I mean, that's not good.
Well, it's a relatively well-known fact that the shoes are not going to hold up more than 6 or 8 weeks under constant use.
Yeah, well, Chase, one of the other shot science guys, I mean, he studied this in school and did some scientific testing on it, and they showed that your shoes break down after a few weeks. Yeah. So after like 6 or 7 weeks of playing and just being constantly using those shoes, they're not going to be good for you.
Right.
So you probably have to get another pair after that time. And if you talk to guys that play, higher levels of basketball, they're going through shoes like crazy. Yeah. So if you're spending $300 on a pair of shoes and you have to get another pair in 2.5 to 3 months, that's going to be real bummer.
Yeah,
and what you're doing is you're paying the brand and you're paying the person that is the endorsement on that. You're not really paying for the quality of the shoe.
Right.
I think it's very important. Do a little bit of research, see what people are saying about them. Go try out those shoes at the store, and then maybe try to find the better price online. And then get those shoes that feel best to you. Maybe run around in the store, see how they feel. If shoes are giving you horrible blisters, then those are not the shoes you should be wearing.
Truly, truly. When I see things like this Nike Hyperdunk, that's all.
It's all branding.
It's all branding, and it's all an attempt to entice people to come and buy it because they think that's something special.
But that's not to say that those shoes aren't great, because I actually have a pair over here.
Yeah,
but
the thing is, though, is like Casey's talking about, is do they fit well? Do they do any damage to your feet? I have a couple of pair of shoes that I don't wear very often because after about an hour or two, I find that my feet really start to ache because of the insoles in them.
Yeah, and the thing too is when you hang around some of these guys that are playing, they might endorse certain shoes or wear certain brands, but a lot of them, they're wearing kind of the more generic ones.
Yeah.
And being around some of these guys in the D League, like, they will tell you that maybe they'll show up wearing these shoes or whatever, but then they'll put these ones on and they'll wear these in practice and blah blah blah. A lot of it is for show.
Yeah.
So you guys need to make good decisions about shoes that are going to be the tools that are going to make you better, just because they're comfortable and you don't think about them when you're wearing them. And that's the other thing. People think that there's all these gimmicky things that they can do. Like, they'll put on some shooting sleeve, or they'll put on some, compression, blah, blah, blah.
Wristbands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all this stuff, it doesn't help you be a better player. You want to get these things on that are going to be tools that you don't have to think about when you have them on. So if it's your shoes, you should put them on and not think about them again.
Yep, that's true.
All right. Let's move on. Let's check Twitter, because I think there's a couple people tweeting at us today. Okay, this one is from, and I should say that if you want your question answered, please send them to us, and you can put them in the chat here on YouTube, or you can send them on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. We'll try to get to as many of you guys as possible. We'll shout you out if we ask your question. Anyways, this one is from Mendigas Bertiz, who is at Beard06 on Twitter. He says, how to condition yourself to be able to apply pressure to your opponent for a long period of time. So this is a question about conditioning. And the thing about conditioning is that a lot of people think that you have to do these endurance exercises or these endurance kind of types of training where maybe you're running for 5 miles, and it's about kind of keeping up this constant pace.
Right.
The thing about basketball is that it is not a constant endurance sport.
Nope.
where the intensity is all one constant kind of level.
Right.
Basketball is all about these ups and downs. You're transitioning.
Short sprints.
Yeah, you're transitioning from sprinting to standing to being in a defensive stance and stuff like that. So we think that your approach to conditioning should be similar, where you're doing a bunch of sprints. Maybe you're doing the ladder drill, also known as suicides. You're doing things where maybe you're playing very intensely for a few minutes, and then you kind of take a minute and maybe shoot some free throws. When we're talking about being a good free throw shooter, a lot of times we tell people that you need to be taking a break, shooting free throws throughout your conditioning work.
Right.
So you don't just come into the gym and shoot your free throws and then that's it for free throws, because you want to be able to make those free throws throughout your conditioning and fatigue levels. So deep in the fourth quarter, you come in there and you've actually shot being that tired before in practice.
Yep.
The same is true with like defense. When you're working on defense, you need to make sure that you are pushing yourself through the different levels of fatigue. And a lot of times we see guys that they stand flat-footed on defense. They're not down in this defensive stance. You need to really push yourself to be able to keep up the defensive stance throughout your entire conditioning and workout, so that when you get into a game, you can keep that up.
Yeah.
I know that when we were younger, or when I was younger, and we would go to these basketball camps, most of the time they kept us in defensive stance when we were just standing there listening to them.
Right.
It wasn't like we could stand straight up and talk to them or whatever. We were down in defensive stance for, hours, going up and down back into it, because they wanted to drill into us that this was something that we had to do while we were in the game.
Right.
When we're in the game, we are not allowed to stand straight up and down at any time, because either we were on offense preparing to, whatever, maybe we're preparing to catch the ball, or had the ball. We're on defense. We are always in some kind of defensive stance where we're on the balls of our feet. We're down. We're ready to react. And we don't have to do any kind of reaction after the fact.
Exactly. One of the things that kind of disillusioned me a long time ago about zone defenses is that players tend to stand straight-legged. and they don't move very quick. They don't anticipate very quickly. And so by having your team play man-to-man defense and stay in a low position regularly, Casey's talking about,
just reactively.
you're much better positioned to be able to react to what the defense or offense is doing to you. Whereas if you're straight-legged, not the case.
Yeah, and the thing about conditioning yourself for anything is that you have to approach it as like your sport-specific, whatever your sport is. Yeah. So if it's baseball, it's going to be a different approach than basketball. Yeah. If it's you're a marathon runner, you're not going to do the same thing. But when it comes to basketball, interval training is really kind of the approach that you should have.
Yep.
High intensity paired with lower intensity. And it doesn't matter if you're shooting free throws or you're working on defense, the same approach is true. And if you're trying to be conditioned, deep into a game playing defense like you're asking here, then that's really kind of your approach. You need to work on it throughout your fatigue levels.
Right.
All right. So this next one is from Brandon Wong. He was at Brandon Wong 2017 on Twitter. He says, my sister, 12 years old, shoots well for her age, but when she shoots, her shooting elbow seems to pop out. Why is this happening?
Her elbow?
Shooting elbow, yeah.
Okay.
So I think he means that, like, instead of it being kind of like it going straight up, it's kind of popping out to the side.
I'm convinced that typically is caused by people trying to get more power on the ball and on their shot out of their arm. And so the elbow tends to turn out. But usually what happens, you end up releasing the ball off of these fingers. It has sideways rotation, and it's not very accurate. When we are teaching people how to do this, we want them to take that elbow that is a shooting elbow, and it should be pointed essentially in the direction of your shooting foot. And if it is, then you're probably going to do a much better job. Some people, however, do have that little roll out of the elbow. And what happens when the elbow rolls out, the shot becomes flat. And when it becomes flat, then your accuracy falls off the table.
Right. And we talked about it before, is that people are trying to get strength for these shots because they haven't built up the muscle memory or haven't spent the time building themselves back as they use the form shooting drill. So our answer to you would mostly be, make sure she's starting out close to the basket, slowing everything down, breaking everything down, and she's working on making sure her mechanics are in place very close in. And as soon as she masters that, then she can take a step back, but not before.
Yeah.
And you just have to really work on making sure that you work progressively back, and you're not just trying to go from 2 feet to 20 feet and then wonder why things break down or you have to get your elbow. I mean, your body will look for ways to generate that power. And if you haven't properly worked up to it, then it will probably not be the way that you want it to be.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. This one is from B-Boy Crow from Google+. He says, I started playing basketball recently, sadly late because at age 17. Before that, I used to dance, so my stamina and rhythm is better than most of the players I know. How can I get use of it, and how should I practice? Please help. You should practice like everybody else does. Start with the fundamentals and start slow, start diligently, and build up to it. And maybe now would be a good time to do the 3 pillars of practice.
I think that probably would be good. Go ahead.
Okay. So we talk about this all the time. Our approach to developing your skills the right way, we think, is the 3 pillars of practice. And the first pillar is that you approach your skill development very diligently. You break everything down, and you make sure that you're dialing everything in very slowly. So that's like working on things like the form shooting drill.
Yes.
That would be the example of shooting. Maybe it's, if you're ball handling, it's working on pounding the ball into the floor, stationary, doing a short crossover, and just working on making sure everything is dialed in. The next pillar is your game speed, game intensity pillar. And what you do there is you take the things that you were working on in the first pillar and you amp them up to game intensity or game speed. And so maybe you add in a defender, maybe you visualize that defender, but everything is at the speed of the game. So you're stepping in, catching passes, you're coming in off the dribble, but everything is how you would, how it would look if you were to step into a game and be using that skill. Then the next pillar is game experience. So you're taking everything from the first 2 pillars and you're applying that to an actual game. So if you've been working on your shot, you're getting in there and you're just getting the experience of using that against an actual player that doesn't know that you've been working on that stuff. So that can be pickup games, that can be AAU games, that can be school games, whatever it is, just getting that experience. So those are the 3 pillars that you want to constantly be working with all the time. You don't want to just do one pillar on Monday and then forget about it for 2 weeks and then come back to it. These are how you approach your practice all the time.
Yeah, and the thing that you need to do is make sure that you get a number of different kinds of things that you're working on daily. In other words, don't go spend all of your time just on shooting or just on ball handling or just on defense or whatever. Take and break your practice time up that you're going to have for you developing your skills into maybe where we're going to do 15 minutes of shooting. We're going to take and work on 15 minutes of ball skills. We're going to take and work on 15 minutes of running the floor or conditioning, so that you don't try to take and do shooting once a week, dribbling once a week. We want to get it all so that's happening continuously all the time.
Yeah, consistency is huge in basketball. And we always tell players, too, that you want to be a great all-around player, not a specialist. Because as soon as you specialize in shooting or a skill, or you specialize in a position like point guard, then you've pigeonholed yourself and you're not as valuable to a coach or a team. And you might find yourself in a situation where you don't play. Because of those limitations. So you should be great at shooting. You should be great at posting up. You should be great at attacking the rim. You should be great at defense. You should be able to bring the ball up the floor. I mean, everything. You should be good at all of that stuff. And you have to work on it every day, and make sure that you are just being diligent about it. It's not a casual thing where you're coming in and just doing all these different things and there's no real rhyme or reason. You've really put together your workout. You've thought about it, and your approach is to develop all the varieties of basketball skills. Okay. A lot of preaching going on today with all this stuff. Okay, let's see. Jonathan Frazier in the comments here says, do you agree that defense needs a revolutionary change, like how Michael Jordan played defense was out of the norm and it actually worked? Did Michael Jordan play defense out of the norm? I think he was just playing real heads up defense.
Well, he was just playing heads up and playing really hard. And the one thing that probably set him apart from a lot of people that were playing at the same time is he took a very low position on defense. He got his butt down and got his head up, and squared up to people. And with long strides, he was able to stay in front of them.
Well, that's the thing, is that we teach that kind of stuff where you need to be the person in control. And that's what Michael Jordan was all about, no matter where he was. You know, it didn't matter if he was even on the basketball court. He was in control, and people had to react to him.
And I don't think that's revolutionary. One of the things that you find is that every element in basketball, every part of this game, and this is probably true in all sports, is under constant change all the time. About 10 or 12 years ago, and it was probably started a little sooner than that, what we began to see is that coaches were beginning to have their players square up when they're facing the basketball.
On defense.
And the reason they were squaring up is because coaches had figured out that they could beat that staggered stance by attacking the high foot. And so they were beating people by going to the high foot. So when you pull that high foot back, and now we're even on both sides. Now, when you start to move, we can work and keep ourselves in front of you and not allow you to penetrate. And another thing that, excuse me, Casey.
No, go ahead.
Another thing that kind of came along probably about the same time is that coaches began to position themselves on the wings on defense, along the sidelines and whatnot, so that players could not get over the top and into the lane, into the middle. They were forcing them always to try and get them to go baseline, where they could generate a double team in the short corner. Now, that was kind of a revolutionary change, and now you're seeing that that's pretty typical in the game of basketball. When I was a young guy, up until maybe 20 years ago, you did not ever allow yourself to be beat on the baseline, because if they got along the baseline with the basketball, they probably were going to be able to score. Well, one of the things that has helped all of that as well is that they take players and they now rotate hard over to meet you. And there's also people who are rotating across the face of the person that you left. And so they're not leaving places open. I think those are the kinds of changes that are taking place and have taken place in the last generation, let's say.
I think that a lot of people too, especially big guys, they feel like they can take a breather or a rest when they get on defense, especially if the guy that they're guarding doesn't have the ball. And a lot of times you see guys just standing straight up and down, lock kneed, flat-footed, whatever. Back when I was playing and back when, we were doing the camps and stuff, you were not allowed to do that stuff. But, you see it today through all levels of basketball where people, it's like they're essentially just taking a break and they have their arms down and they're letting things go on, whatever over there. The ball rotates around and then they turn on. That is a bad way to approach defense. And I think that maybe the revolutionary change needs to be something where, it's all the things that we talk about, is that you need to be the one in control, make the offense react to you. So you're beating people to the spot, you have active hands, you're jumping the passing lane, blah, blah, blah. But these are things that have been around forever. It's just that, maybe kind of more modern play doesn't really emphasize that as being kind of the way to approach it. But that's kind of the way that we teach and that we think that needs to be approached.
Yeah. One of the things that's a real weakness on defense and has been, seemed like forever, is that when a player on offense attacks the basket and he doesn't get any support from his teammates, they are like, we call it, the name of it escapes me now, where somebody is getting right between, he's got a ball, and he's attacking a seam between you and the other player, and you just olay him right on through. Okay. We actually make sure with our guys that you never get through a seam like that without being challenged. We slide our body over and we're right in front of you. And then you're going to have to either stop or run over us. And then once we read what you're doing, then we can release and get back to our person. But
yeah, I mean,
one of the things is you never, ever let somebody into the middle of the defense.
Are you talking about like crossing guard defense?
Where somebody attacks and tries to get into the lane.
So if somebody, that's all about help defense and stuff.
It is.
So if somebody is going into the lane and he's kind of beating your other teammate, there's a few things that you can do. One of them is jump out and stop that guy. Maybe you have to commit to him, maybe not. But there might be a situation where you flash out and you kind of make him think and react. And change what he's doing, and you go back to your man. It really depends on the situation, and you need to have the experience to really have that stuff down. But I mean, there's different scenarios, but you need to stop the ball. You cannot just let the ball go on defense ever. So that's the same thing with a fast break or whatever it is. If the ball is coming down, you need to go to the ball, stop the ball, and that is your first directive.
Right.
If you let the ball go and the guy just goes right by you and you're like, oh, I couldn't come off because my man was, well, you just screwed up because that guy scored. So what was the point? Maybe you come off your man, but the defense, your teammate should help and rotate and fix that for you.
Exactly.
Because the first things first in defense is stop the ball.
Well, and one of the things that I see oftentimes in college basketball even is players who are not helping sufficiently to stop that penetration. I know why, because maybe they're guarding a really good potential three-point shooter, and so they don't want to release on him to stop this penetration. I'll take a chance on that for myself. I don't want that guy getting in and getting a layup and going to the free throw line because we let him get into the paint. I want to stop him, and if he's going to give the ball up, I'm going to recover hard to him and hope that I can do a good job.
Or your teammates are going to cover you on help defense. I mean, that a well-working defense is going to be able to react to whatever the situation is. And the fact of the matter is that if you let that guy go, he's going to shoot a 90% shot, which is going to be like a layup. Or you give it up and he's going to shoot a 30 to 35% shot, which is a three-pointer. And if your defense is where it should be a contested shot because your defense is going to be there. All right, so let's move on. This one is from Tyler Mickens, who says, how do you improve your strength for your shot? You got to build it up using the form shooting drill.
Yeah, and this
progressively move back.
And this is something that most everybody forgets. And we have a video on it. Get your legs into it. And the power for shooting comes from our midsection and the muscles of the lower body, which are the largest muscles in our body.
We've already talked about this.
Yeah, but the thing that we want to get across here is that's where your power comes from.
Right. So go watch that video or watch earlier what we were talking about here. Keith Dymek, who says, I've been working hard a lot this preseason and my knees are kind of hurting. What do you suggest watching from all that?
Rest.
I mean, rest is the biggest thing. But the thing about it is too is that we are not doctors. We cannot give you medical advice. If your knees are hurting, you should go have your doctor evaluate you and figure out what the deal is.
Well, if your tooth was hurting you, what would you do then? You go to the doctor and have them look at it.
And I mean, you should listen to what their recommendation is.
And listen to what your body's telling you. If you're hurting and it's not getting better, or it is intermittent and come back, then you need to do something about it.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is have an injury and just play through it without any kind of evaluation, because it could turn into some chronic thing or something that lasts your entire life.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you had just maybe gone to the doctor and they say stay off it for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're ready to go, it's like, bummer that you missed those 2 weeks, but you come back and you're not hurting.
Yeah, and you can go full bore.
Okay. Let's see. Jonathan Frazier here says, is palm shooting really a bad thing? Because I've watched many games and videos, and it looks to me like Stephen Curry is a palm shooter, and he is the best shooter I think in the world has ever seen. And I know he is special, but I'm sure it could work for other people. No,
no.
Stephen Curry is 100% not a palm shooter.
No. One of the things, let me take a moment on this, Casey.
Well, we can tell you that too, because we've seen videos of him teaching shooting. We've seen videos of his dad teaching shooting, blah, blah, blah.
And his brother shooting.
And if you watch slow motion video and go look at the NBA's YouTube, and they have the phantom footage of Stephen Curry, there's 0% chance that he is shooting off his palm.
Yeah. What we teach is that we want to have just a room for one finger here. That's all we require. But you get the ball up on your finger pads where you have the best sensory nerves, the strongest sensory nerves.
Just have control.
And it allows you to have really good control. One of the things
off of your palm, look at that. You have zero control of the ball. And you shoot that, if it falls off of your hand just a millimeter, your shot is not going to be accurate.
Put that up there.
Put it in your hand, and it's not going anywhere.
Watch this. If you take this thumb and the little finger, they are opposing one another, and you can actually grip the basketball with those fingers.
Well, you don't want to be gripping the basketball hard. I mean, that's a mistake.
You're snug, so you've got control of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a mistake too. But look, I have control over the ball. I can move it around. It's not going anywhere. I put it on my palm. It's all over the place. And look, I'll even put my fingers on it, but it's mostly my palm. Same thing is true. You have zero control with your palm because there's no dexterity in it. It's all about getting it on your finger pads. So maybe you think that he's a palm shooter. He is not. No. If he was, he would be completely inaccurate on his shooting.
And very few of the really good shooters are palm shooters.
Well, none of them are. I mean, as soon as you open your hand up, the ball cannot go on your palm.
Yeah.
If you do this, that's how you get it on your palm. But you have no control when you do that. You open up your hand, and this gives you control. Okay. This one is from France Mosso, who's saying, how do I get the mentality like Kobe Bryant and Russell Westbrook? I mean, that's
what mentality are you talking about?
Are you talking about like the killer mentality, or like the type A mentality in basketball? I mean, that's just kind of you have to have that mental approach. There's nothing that we can tell you to do.
No, and that mentality is something you typically are born with too.
Yeah, and a lot of it is also having confidence, and how you develop confidence is developing your skills to the point where you have confidence in your skills, which translates to confidence in the way that you play.
Right.
This one is from Caden Lynn, who asks, what are some drills you recommend for shooting?
Go to our shooting playlist on our YouTube channel. It's all right there.
Well, yeah, I would say that the biggest one that we would say is the form shooting drill. Like you cannot deny that is the most important one.
That is it.
After that, I would say that, we have some game speed, game intensity drills that you should use. But also go check out Coach Dennis Stanton's spin shooting workout, which is another great one. Okay. This one is from Tyler Anderson, who says, whenever I shoot the ball, my offhand kind of flops anywhere. It flops out when it comes to the right place, but it doesn't affect the ball. Is this something I should work towards to change?
Well, one of the things that is a kind of pet peeve for us is the fact that your thumb on your assist hand, or some call it the guide hand, oftentimes stays in contact with the basketball too long, and it gives a little flip at the end and causes it to have sideways rotation and not be accurate.
Well, that's
hang on a second. We always teach ours that as we reach the point of release, the other hand is going to completely off the basketball, and it is a one-handed shot. You will find that the ball is going to be much truer when you shoot it out of that one hand as opposed to allow that thumb to get in there.
Well, I don't think he's not really saying that, but that is like one of the major issues that comes about with the assist hand. What he's saying more, I think, is that his assist hand is coming off and it's doing weird things that he doesn't want.
It can do whatever it wants. You can put it in your pocket if you want to.
But I think, well, I don't think that's great either. I think that you should try to be
a little cynical.
No, I think that your shot should be as efficient as possible, and you want to eliminate all these extraneous, unnecessary movements because that just complicates your shot, makes it harder to replicate every single time. So, like you were saying, what should happen as soon as the ball starts to elevate is that your hand should just fall away. Like it shouldn't even be a part of the shot. You don't want to be doing any hand waving or finger snapping or whatever it is.
Flopping.
Yeah, it should really just fall away. And like we were saying earlier, the way that you get rid of those things is that you have to work on the form shooting drill and eliminate each of those elements that you don't want by diligently scaling it back, doing it very slow.
Yeah.
All right. So let's lightning around this so we can get through this. That means short answers to these questions.
Oh, you know me.
Let's see. This one is from Hayden Bryan, who says, with my jump shot, I've started using my legs a lot more. I'm finding a lot more success with it, but I found my form changes. Sometimes it's Eric Gordon height on my body, and other times it's like Kyrie Irving's, but it's still successful. Is there anything that can fix this? Consistency in your practice will lead to consistency in your execution. So,
you know, the biggest problem in jump shooting is holding the ball at the top. That's the biggest problem, because what happens is that you don't have the power to finish the shot when you wait too long. Gravity starts to get a hold of you and jerk you back down to the earth. And so you want to make sure that you're releasing the ball as you're reaching the top of your jump. You'll find that the power and everything works really well for you right there.
Yeah, and if your form is changing, you need to work on the form shooting drill, be consistent, and progressively work back. Okay, this one's from Tyler Mickens, who says, how do I increase my vertical? Go look at our vertical jump series on YouTube. We have several videos on it, and then get the vertical jump handbook that we have on there. And that would be our best suggestion.
Yep.
Okay, this one is from Ayols John, who says, hey, coach, I've been having slight problems spinning the ball while shooting. I know that you uploaded some videos about it. I don't have any problem making the ball spin while I'm at home, but when it comes to playing a game, I have trouble spinning it. I also get tired quickly. My cardio is low, and any good advice? Thank you. Okay, quickly. What he's talking about is the flop finish, right?
Yeah.
So you want to work on developing that flop finish and doing the 3 pillars of practice that we talk about. So you're going to slow it down, do the diligent form shooting drill and stuff like that. But then you have to work on game speed, game intensity stuff to have it executed in the 3rd pillar, which is actual game experience. So you need to work on your game speed, game intensity practice. Like you need to practice like you're going to be in a game.
Yeah, that's really true. And, you know, you kind of indicate here that you're slightly, let's see, I've been having slightly problems spinning the ball. Well, if you go look at our videos on the flop finish and the rotation of the ball, that would probably help you out. We don't want to see an awful lot of rotation on the ball. If I'm shooting a free throw, I want the ball to spin 1-2 complete spins on its way to the basket from the free throw line. And I'm not going to go through all the reasons that's important. Go check that video out, and it will tell you why that's important.
Right. Okay. So this one is from Jovan Tang, you were asking about cardio and stuff. We talked about that earlier. So it's all about the interval training and sport specific stuff that we talked about. Jovan Tang is asking, how do you drive and shoot on people taller and stronger than you? Well, this is going to be the really easy answer to this. There's 2 parts to it. One is forget about the fact that they're taller and stronger. Number 2 is learn to create space.
Yeah.
And that's all we will say about that.
Yeah.
Learn to create space. That's all you need. Juliet Ume Izioke says, how do you play effective defense in the post without fouling? Do you recommend playing in front of the post player or behind?
That's a good question, and one that we get fairly regularly. It depends on the player that you're playing against. If we're going to be playing against a person who is big and he's real active once he catches the basketball, then we're going to front him. And fronting him means that we're going to play belly button to belly button with him. We're going to get out and face him, and one hand is extended at full arm's length, and the other one is right on his chest right here. And it's really hard. That hand high like that discourages lob over passes to him. And so the thing is that if he can't catch the ball, he can't score. What do we give up? We give up rebounding position, but listen to this. If the guy is posting up on the right block and you're fronting him and denying him the basketball, and the ball is shot from that side of the floor, 70% of the rebounds go the other way anyway. And so we think that it's real important to front people who are big, strong, and effective with the basketball. If we find somebody who is he can be big, but if he's not very active with the basketball and we're not too much concerned on him turning and scoring, we'll play him on the ball side.
Right. And
but we never play behind him. Yeah. Never.
And the thing is that you should have your help defense be there to help you if the lob comes over the top.
Exactly right.
So, that needs to be in place. And the thing is, if you play behind them, again, you're letting them be in control. You need to be in control and make them react to you, not the other way around.
And it's hard for them to catch the ball and find a way to catch it if you're in front of them constantly.
Well, the only option is they're going to try to lob it over the top, and your defensive help should be there.
Well, there's one other thing that sometimes happens on players that are a little bit more a little crafty, been coached up quite a bit. They can oftentimes seal you when the ball reverses from one side of the floor to the other, and then you're in trouble. And that's when you really need some help with other players.
Okay, Ivory Green says, guys, help. I've been trying my best to let the ball come off my index finger when I shoot, but it just doesn't happen. And the outcome, it looks like I'm just forcing my shot up. Start in close. Start with the form shooting drill. Yeah. Start breaking down each element of your shot. And one of the things that we suggest is getting the ball in your hand without using the assist hand. Just use that one hand and make sure you're following through. And a lot of times people are trying to force their hand behind the ball like that. You don't need to do that. Have it like this, where you have the yoke and you see the Y shape here. And as you reach your hand up, your hand should turn over and you'll have the proper release point for your release. So just make sure that you're working on it very slowly and having your working on that nice flop release, right?
The other thing is that what the problem is, and you have to slow it down so that you're getting it done. If you just go there and you just continue to shoot without the fingers coming off properly, you're never going to get it right. You've got to back up, slow down, and make sure that it's coming off those two fingers every time. And you can tell if it's coming off those or other fingers. If you can't, then you better start thinking about how you can feel that.
Okay, a couple quick answers to these and we'll be out of here. This one is from Rise of King Fresh. He says, how do you get your vertical leap higher as a kid? Check out our vertical jump videos. Yep. That would be the answer there. Okay, two last questions. There's a combo one here. This is from Rise of King Fresh again, who's asking, how can I be a deadly ball handler like Kyrie or Allen Iverson? And how can I be a master of the finger roll at 4'10", at 12 years old? Coach, what should I do? The answer to both of those is that you have to work on them and you have to be consistent and you need to break everything down and use the 3 pillars of practice. We go over it over and over again. You have to put in the work to develop those skills. Absolutely. It doesn't just happen. Okay. The last question that we're going to have here is from Vance Charles. He says, hey, I play basketball a lot by myself, but I always play game speed. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for when I get into games?
As long as you're under control and game speed, that's really good.
I think it might be a situation where you want to work on the first pillar of practice too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if you want to develop these skills and have them be kind of more refined and be there for you consistently, I think you need to have an approach where you do kind of these more diligent, thoughtful kind of drills,
right?
And then pair those with the game speed, game intensity things,
right? One thing that I would also include in there and put this in your data bank, and that is defensive players have a real difficult time with changes of speed. And so I would also, besides game speed, also learn to change speed, regulate speed, because the defense usually is not going to react to those properly when you do that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to do it for us tonight or today, you guys. Not tonight yet, depending on where you are. But that's going to do it for us today. This is Shot Science Overtime number 123. Make sure you're following us on everything that we are Shot Science on. So that's going to be Twitter. We are at Shot Science. You can follow us on Facebook. where we post every single day, multiple times. Follow us on Google Plus. We're there all the time. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and on Snapchat. We've been doing a lot of stuff on Snapchat, drills and guest coaches and stuff like that. So make sure you're following us there. And make sure that you come back next week where we'll have another live show, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And subscribe to us on YouTube and tell your friends to too. We want to make you guys better basketball players.
Right.
Okay. So I think that's going to do it for us today, right? You have anything
Thanks,
else?
guys. Appreciate you joining us.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.